all know, I've got 3 of my 4 children who are diagnosed on the spectrum. And so anytime I find out about events, I like to share those with you to create awareness and acceptance. But even more so than that, being an advocate for families who have children with special needs like autism, I like to make sure that I connect families to the resources and the services that they need to help their children and the adults in their lives who have special needs live better lives. You know, when they give you this diagnosis and they tell you your kids have autism, you might as well get the keys to an 18-wheeler. And somebody say, if you can drive this 18-wheeler home, you can have all the money in the bed of the truck. Well, if you don't know how to drive an 18-wheeler, that money's going to be right there. And you're not going to be able to get it home and use it. And I remember when my kids were diagnosed, they gave me the paperwork. They said, okay, your kids have autism. Have a great day. Well, what do I do? Where do I go? Who's going to provide the help? What kind of help do they need? None of those questions were answered for me right then and right away. I languished and I looked up and I researched and talked to parents so that I could try to get the help that I needed for my children. And then this is the thing, even if you know you need speech therapy, well, where do you go for the speech therapy? Even if you know you need ABA therapy, well, where do you go to get that? Who's the trusted ABA therapist in town? How do you make sure that you don't get scammed? I was talking to a mother the other night who said, you know, I spent $10,000 at this one center that called itself a therapy center, and I'm not going to name the names, but they know who they are. And they told me that in 6 months that my child would be healed or cured from autism. And they took my money, the insurance, you know, they don't take insurance, and, you know, so I gave them cash. I had a fundraiser, did a GoFundMe, and 6 months later, I realized that it was a scam. So not only did this parent lose $10,000, but they also lost 6 months of good therapy and intervention for their children. And so I remember when I realized that my son Daniel, and specifically, he was able to access some resources and funding to get things at the house like fences and combination locks and new doors with deadbolts on them, because he was a wanderer and he kept trying to escape. And we were always one Amber Alert away from him being gone or missing. And, you know, we were having to pay out of our pockets for fences and door knobs and locks. And somebody was like, no. Get over to Accra Homecare, because they have services and programs for people with special needs and elderly folk, and they can help you. And I didn't even realize my child had a budget, $45,000 a year, where we could get a PCA or a fence or a trampoline or a special bed or a combination lock for the doors. And we did not have to pay out of pocket. It was years before I found out that information. So anytime I can have these folks from Accra on the Sheletta Show to let you and your family members and your friends who have kids with special needs know about what's available, I am going to invite them on. So Tyler Langenfeld is here from Accra. He is the 245D Services Program Director at Accra Homecare. He is joining us on the John Schuster Caldwell Banker Hotline. Tyler, thank you so much for being on the program.
Well, thank you. It's fun for me to talk to somebody who is equally as enthusiastic about Accra.
Well, you know, this is the thing. I just remember that day that I had been working at CCO Radio from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. Because I didn't know that my son qualified for $45,000 worth of PCA services. I didn't, I had been, I didn't have to do that. I could go just weekends, or, I could pay myself to be his paid parent. and use some of that money to pay these bills around here, and I wouldn't have to work overnight. I didn't know any of that stuff was available. And I was sitting up there with another mom at a group speech therapy, and she was like, why are you falling asleep? Why are you so tired? And I was like, well, I'm working 8P to 4A, and, I'm up all day with the kids and up all night working at the radio station. And she said, why don't you get a PCA? I said, I don't have that kind of money. And she said, no, your son qualifies for that. And she told me about y'all, and that's why I tell people all the time, everything I learned to help my kids who have autism, I learned from another parent. And I'm just always so grateful for how you all help me not only find the resources, but use them properly so that my kids and my family can have a better quality of life.
Well, Sheletta, let me tell you that over the years, I can't tell you how many times somebody has called me, and maybe the first thing out of their voice is, I don't even know what question to ask you, because they really don't have the information, like you said. So, and that's okay. Let me tell you a little bit about Accra, and especially the 245D services that I kind of work with. So, Accra's provider, we're several in-home services, including some of them that fall under the 245D license. And 245D is a license under which several different services that are available. And I know you're familiar with things like disability waivers and elderly waivers.
Yeah.
Specifically, now I'm going to throw some terms at you and your audience, but it's important to me that there's somebody in your audience that's specifically looking for one of these particular services, that they hear those words coming out of my mouth. So here are the 5 in-home 245D services that we have at Accra. Individualized home supports without training. We've got respite services, homemaker services, night supervision services, and individual community living supports. Now, again, that's a lot of terms, but remember, they're all variations on the idea of hiring somebody to come into your home to help you take care of yourself or your loved ones, because that ultimately is what we do at Accra.
And talk to me about, and this is the thing too, and I was talking about this before we jumped you in. It's a trust thing. When you have a child with special needs specifically, you don't know who to trust. You don't know who is going to be righteous. You're not sure if this is going to work or whether or not this is going to work for your family. But that 245D service that Accra provides, and y'all are one of the largest providers of home care services in the state. You're right here in Minnetonka, so I just appreciated the fact that I could put my hands on y'all if I needed to, which I have not needed to yet. And I've been hanging with y'all for a couple of years now, and we've had a really good relationship, and I just so much appreciate that. But that 245D services, that really means something.
Yeah, and you've really touched on one of the things that I like most about Accra, and I know I'm biased. I love a lot of things about Accra, but we are, as you say, we're a large organization, but we've managed to maintain some of the small organization benefits, and I think the communication is one of the areas that we do that. I mean, we have a whole dedicated individuals that are ready to answer the phones. I mean, you talked about trust. If you're going to work with us, we're going to assign you an individual that's going to explain things to you. They're going to set up your services. They're going to help you hire that staff, and then they're going to stay with you for the duration of your time with us. You can give us a call at 952-935-3515, or if you want to go online, acrahomecare.org. And I always want to spell out Accra, A-C-C-R-A, homecare.org. But you nailed it. It's about trust. It's I've been in countless kitchen tables looking across at people that just say, I don't know, like I said, even what to ask you. Nobody has explained anything to me. That's our job. That's why we're there, and we're going to do that for you.
Well, I just appreciate you being on the show, the services that you provide for families like mine, and the care in which you do it with. We've been talking to Tyler Langenfeld. He is the 245D Services Program Director at Accra Homecare. Thank you so much for being on the Sheletta Show.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for everything that you do about this.
Oh, God bless you. Tyler, honestly, I do not want another parent to have to learn these lessons the hard way like I did. I don't want another parent to think that they have to work overnights and weekends and then be up all day when there's services available for their children. I don't want another parent not to know that respite services are available, that Accra is there to help you figure out what your budget is for your special needs child, and then use that money to pay for things like a fence or a trampoline or door locks to keep your kids safe. I don't want anybody praying and hoping and wishing that they can come up with the money or find a care coordinator or respite services or any of that stuff. I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. And so if I can use this platform and this show to shine a spotlight on what's available for families in need, that is what I am going to do.